Shocking truth about the Gilded Age, life as a servant revealed at 3 a.m. You won't believe this. The clock struck 3, echoing through the empty halls like a haunting bell tolling for a lost soul. Shadows danced eerily in the flickering candlelight as whispers of untold horrors swirled among the dust motes in the abandoned mansion. What secrets lay hidden within these walls? Who had walked this floor? It was a tale steeped in mystery and despair, one that would chill you to your bone. Was life as a servant during the Gilded Age a glamorous dream or a waking nightmare? Just outside, a chill wind swept through the trees, rattling their branches like skeletal fingers longing to touch the secrets of the past. Inside, there were rumors of fading echo of laughter trapped in dismal rooms, and tales of lavish banquets hosted for the elite while those who toiled in the shadows bore the weight of their desires. But the most unsettling stories were whispered of spirits that lingered, spectral figures of former servants still tied to the house, unable to escape the chains of their tragic fates. No one dared to speak too loudly for fear of awakening the restless souls, but then came the strange happenings. One night, a maid, pale as death, claimed to hear a children's laughter ringing out from the grand ballroom, a room closed for decades. Those who peeked through the keyhole described shadows that glided gracefully across the dusty floors, only to vanish when the light hit them. Was it merely a trick of the mind, or something far darker? A sense of unease tightened like a vice around the hearts of those who dared to share these stories, leaving them breathless and wanting more. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the night deepened, the air thickened with tension. Was it simply fear, or a palpable threat that bled through the fabric of time? The silence was shattered by a sudden crash, an object careening against the wall, sharp and jarring as a scream. Hearts raced, palms clammy, as they gathered at the bottom of the grand staircase, their faces illuminated by the faint glow of lanterns, wide eyes darting towards the darkness above. What had caused that sound? Was someone or something watching them from above? And as they hesitated, a figure emerged from the shadows. The figure that emerged from the shadows was shrouded in uncertainty, a silhouette that flickered like a flame fighting against the wind. Someone or something stood at the top of the staircase, their features indistinct yet palpable, with a weighty presence that sent chills racing down the spines of the onlookers below. The lantern light flickered wildly, casting an unsettling glow that morphed the figure into something unrecognizable, a grotesque dance of shadow and form. Who is there? One of the men stammered, his voice cracking in the thick atmosphere. A dangerous silence filled the room, taunting them, before an ethereal voice drifted down from the cold heights above. It was a soft whisper, barely above a breath, laced with an anguish that echoed through the very marrow of their bones. "Help me!" The words hung in the air, a haunting plea slithering into their ears, demanding to be heard. It sent a jolt of fear through the group. What kind of help could they offer to a ghost? The lanterns flickered again, and a sudden draft swept through the hall, causing the flames to flicker wildly, elongating the shadow into a claw-like shape. They felt the urge to run, to flee, but curiosity held them hostage in place. The figure shifted, hesitant, before floating down the staircase, each step a deliberate movement steeped in trepidation. As it descended, more features began to materialize. A dress once elegant, now ragged, hair once vibrant, now dulled to a grim shade, eyes hollow pits that seemed to draw in the very light around. It was a maid, and a whisper washed over them, tinged with longing and despair. "What happened to you?" Another woman finally managed to ask, her voice a tremor of fear and compassion. "Please," the maid echoed, her gaze fixating on the floor, "you must uncover the truth." The past, the pain. She paused, her eyes flicking back to theirs with urgency. "It's trapped here. So many souls, and mine is no different." A deep tension built in the room, twisting their insides. What had bound her to this place? What lingered in those walls that could snare countless spirits in despair? The group exchanged nervous glances, haunted by a sudden urgency. The time had come to seek answers, to peel back layers of dust and secrecy that had enshrouded this grand edifice for far too long. As they cautiously stepped closer, drawn to her forlorn figure, a loud crash resonated again from the upper floors, a violent end to the fragile atmosphere they had begun to piece together. The maid's gaze sharpened, and she extended a spectral hand, imploring them to listen, to understand. You must find the diary. It holds the answer. Before they could react, the earth beneath their feet trembled, and shadows erupted like a tempest, swirling chaotically as if the very house itself rebelled against their presence. Whispers filled the air, a cacophony of pleading voices mingling with the growl of the wind. And if we don't? One voice cried out, challenged by the desperate atmosphere. Her ghostly figure flickered, intensity deepening in her hollow eyes. Then we all will be lost. And just like that, with one final lingering gaze, the maid faded into the shadows, leaving them gripped by a bone-deep dread and the crushing weight of urgency. What lay within the pages of that diary? More importantly, what would happen if they failed to uncover the truths buried in this forgotten world? A rush of determination surged through them. They couldn't turn back now. The journey for the truth had begun, but they could feel the clock ticking, and time, as they would discover, was not on their side. What horrors awaited them as they climbed the staircase, courage clashing against fear? Would they uncover the secrets of the past, or would they become another ghost in the grand tale of twisted fates? With hearts pounding like a drumbeat in their ears, they ascended the staircase, hesitant yet driven by an unshakable need to uncover the truth. The air thickened, heavy with a mixture of dread and anticipation. The lanterns they carried created flickering shadows that twisted and curled against the walls, playing tricks on their eyes, igniting their imaginations with thoughts of specters lurking just beyond the edges of light. "Keep it together, everyone," whispered one of the men, trying to inject bravery into their faltering spirits. The others nodded, though fear clung to them like a second skin. The unsettling memory of the maid's anguished plea echoed in their minds, intertwining with some growing fear. Praise the daylight, they thought, if only to see their way more clearly. As they reached the landing, the whispers grew louder, mournful sighs bouncing off the wooden beams above, echoing like a distant chant. Each soft word sent shivers up their spines, a chilling confirmation of the haunting that had encased them. It struck them, what if the maid was right? What if this house truly held the secrets of countless souls lost to anguish? They approached a row of closed doors, strange symbols carved into the wood. One door, slightly ajar, seemed to breathe in the darkness surrounding it. The group inhaled sharply as they moved closer. Inside lay a dimly lit room filled with dust-laden furniture and stacks of forgotten books, half hidden in shadows. A heavy wooden desk stood solemnly at the room's center, and, the student of history among them, felt an electric tingle race through her fingers as she stepped into the room. This must be it. The diary, it has to be in here. Her excitement surged, a stark contrast to the oppressive atmosphere of the house. Skeptically, Marcus drew back, squinting into the darkness. What if we aren't alone in here? His voice barely escaped before they heard the unmistakable sound of something scraping against the floorboards above. They froze, hearts thudding. The sound was unmistakable, heavy footsteps lingering in the gloom, moving closer. "Did you hear that?" whispered one man, his eyes wide with fright. The scraping continued, and suddenly a loud bang reverberated from the ceiling, shattering the tense silence. Dust fell from the beams above, and a feeling of foreboding seized them. Someone or something was up there, and shook her head defiantly. "No. We need to find that diary. It's the key." She rushed past the desk, her fingers grazing the spines of the books, searching for anything that could offer salvation from the unknown. She barely noticed as the door creaked wider behind her, an unnatural wind pushing against it. Moments later, a book slipped from its place, falling free and cracking open to reveal yellowed pages. Anne's heart raced as she knelt to pick it up, the cover stained and frayed, but clearly inscribed with the words Family Chronicles. Before she could read further, the pounding footsteps grew nearer, rattling her bones. "Quick! Someone look for that diary!" shouted Marcus, his voice tinged with panic. "We're running out of time." Suddenly, it all became so overwhelming, the fear, the urgency, the eerie aura of 1,000 whispered secrets, until the noise above ground gave way to a sharp silence. The group held their breath, wanting to scream yet paralyzed by the uncertainty of what lurked beyond the threshold. As and flipped through the pages, a shudder twisted through her spine. A name jumped out at her: Martha. The same name whispered by the maid. "Guys, I think this is it," she gasped, but at that moment, the door slammed shut behind them. Darkness poured into the room, the shadows deepening, and just then, a chilling voice echoed through the walls: "Why have you come here?" The question loomed in the air, dense and suffocating, and the unwelcoming specter of fear tightened around them, leaving them crippled by dread. What would they reveal before the unseen horror claimed them too? What darkness lay beyond the door? Was it too late to turn back? Anne's breath hitched in her throat, the weight of the chilling voice hanging in the air like a dead weight. Panic surged through her, and she clutched the book tighter. Her pulse quickened as shadows danced in the corners of the room, and chills prickled down her spine. The darkness seemed alive, swirling around them with an insatiable hunger. "What do we do?" whispered Sarah, her voice barely audible, trembling. The group huddled closer together, seeking strength in unity, yet the fear was palpable. We didn't mean to intrude," Marcus stammered, his bravado dissolving into desperation. "We just want to know what happened here." "Speak only if you seek the truth," the voice echoed again, this time layered with an eerie resonance that sent ripples of dread coursing through them. The temperature in the room dropped sharply, their breaths turning into visible puffs of mist against the cold, and Anne's heart raced, battling the tempest of fear and curiosity within her. "We need to know who is Martha," she called into the darkness, her voice trembling but firm. Somehow, they had to break the spell of fear, to confront the lurking terror head-on. A fleeting shadow flickered against the wall, and the voice transformed, becoming more tangible. Martha was a prisoner bound by vows of servitude and shackled by secrets. Her pain festers still, lingering long after her demise. As the voice trailed off, the weight of 1,000 untold stories pressed against them. And opened the book again, flipping through the fragile pages frantically. The name seemed like a magnet drawing her toward the painful history buried in time. Suddenly, a cold gust howled through the room, sending books tumbling off the desk. "Stay together!" Marcus shouted, grabbing Sarah's arm as he peered towards the door, still shut tight. "And, we have to find a way out now." He shot her an urgent look, panic spilling over. The pounding footsteps above resumed, louder this time, accompanied by the sound of heavy breathing that echoed from the very walls, as if the house itself was alive and agitated. "Wait!" Anne exclaimed as she stumbled across the faded remains of a photograph stuck between the pages of the book. It depicted a woman, her face obscured by a veil but the eyes glaringly familiar, someone heavily burdened. "This is Martha. I can feel it." "Did you say that name?" The voice hissed, distorted and wrathful, reverberating through the room. The ground seemed to tremble beneath them, and the lanterns flickered violently as if they were losing their fight against the enveloping dark. Anne's heart pounded faster, and she felt a sense of urgency surge through her veins. She had felt the weight of the history, but that connection was now dangerously intimate. "Please, we're not here to disturb you," she cried out, desperation spilling over. "We just want to help. We just want to understand." The shadows grew darker, swirling around them like a tempest on the verge of unleashing chaos. A deafening silence fell, so deep that their hearts' beating seemed unnaturally loud. Then the voice came again, cold and steady. "Very well, if you seek truth, prepare for revelation. The child of darkness awakens." Just as the chilling proclamation left the walls, the door behind them shuddered violently, warping in place. It began to creak open, revealing a corridor lined with flickering lights, illuminating a path darker than anything they could have anticipated. "Do we go?" Sarah asked, her eyes reflecting a blend of terror and curiosity. Before anyone could respond, a figure emerged from the shadows, the ghostly silhouette of a woman, her face still hidden beneath the veil, reaching out towards them. It was not just a haunting, it was an invitation or perhaps a warning. "Step forth, if you dare," the voice transformed, no longer menacing, but resonant with despair, guiding them into the depths of the unknown. The air thickened with anticipation as the group hesitated. What awaits us? And thought, heart racing. They were on the precipice of disaster or truth. Would they dare to follow the darkness, or was it too late to turn back now? With a final, shared glance, they stepped forward, crossing the threshold, plunging deeper into a mystery that would either free them or consume them whole. What terrible truths awaited them in the shadows? And who was the child of darkness that awaited their arrival? As they stepped into the corridor, the air seemed to pulse, heavy and thick. Each dimly flickering light that guided their way cast long shadows along the walls, contorting the figures of the terrified friends. And clutched the book against her chest, heart pounding like a drum echoing in a cavern. "Keep moving," Marcus urged, his voice strained. They shuffled down the passage, where whispers wrapped around them like a cloak, fluttering and fading like moths around the flame. "Can you feel it?" Sarah whispered, eyes wide with fear. "It's like something's watching us." "Just the shadows," Marcus replied, but doubt crept into his own voice. "Right?" Ahead, the light revealed a door, battered and cracked, adorned with scrawled runes that seemed to shimmer in a language long forgotten. An icy chill bit through, and as she approached, something deep inside urged her to stay away, yet an insatiable curiosity pulled her forward. "What if we shouldn't open it?" Sarah said, her breath hitching again. "We're here for the truth," and insisted, a sense of determination igniting. "We have to see what's behind this door." She reached for the doorknob, but before she could grasp it, a piercing scream cut through the corridor. It reverberated in her bones, a sound filled with agony and sorrow. It sent shockwaves through the group, freezing them in place. "Did you hear that?" Marcus gasped, squeezing Sarah's hand tighter. Anne's breath quickened, realizing the scream felt eerily familiar, the sadness echoing through the years, a wailing chorus of despair. Her heart dared to connect it with Martha. She could sense a history woven tightly into that sound, raw and unyielding. "Let us go back," Sarah urged, her voice shaking. But as they turned, the light behind them flickered ominously, swallowing the way they came. It seemed the shadows weren't just playing with light, they were trapping them, feeding on their fear. "Stay focused," Anne shouted, defiance raging as she returned her gaze to the door. With one swift motion, she turned the knob. It creaked open, revealing a room bathed in dim light, filled with dust-covered furniture frozen in time. Inside, the atmosphere thrummed with energy, potential, danger, despair. Time stood still as they stepped over the threshold, and the door slammed shut behind them with a resounding thud, locking them away from the world they knew. "Look!" Marcus pointed. At the center of the room stood a grand mirror, its surface clouded but pulsating with faint images, flickers of past lives, shadows of people long gone. Martha Anne murmured, stepping closer. An inexplicable connection urged her on, like a thread pulling her through a tapestry of secrets. But before she could touch the mirror, a figure emerged from the shadows beside it. The woman's veil lifted slightly, and a pair of haunting eyes locked onto Anne's. Ice wrapped around her heart as she recognized the pain reflected there, Martha's pain. This wasn't just a specter, it was a soul crying out for freedom. "Stop!" the voice trembled, infused with bitterness. "You seek answers, yet you walk the path of the damned." Suddenly, the mirror began to glow, images swirling faster, revealing glimpses of Martha's life, a life filled with anguish and sorrow, shackled by invisible chains. "This isn't just her story, it's yours too," the ghostly figure warned, leaning closer. "You must choose. The truth comes at a price." "What could that mean?" Sarah gasped, her face pale as the colors faded from the room. The mirror flashed in response, illuminating a scene from the past: a child, small and frail, racing along a garden path, laughter echoing amidst ominous shadows that loomed in the background. "Oh my God," Anne whispered, realization dawning. "It's more than just Martha, it's about us." As the weight of her revelation settled like an anvil in her stomach, a chill whispered through the room. The shadows stirred restlessly, beckoning them toward a revelation they might not survive. "Will you stay and learn the price?" Martha's ghost prompted, an edge of desperation in her voice. "Or will you flee back to ignorance, carrying the weight of your decision forever?" The walls began to tremble violently, echoing their inner turmoil. Could they face this truth? What was the cost? Anne's heart raced anew, and she looked to her friends, panic mixing with resolve. "We have to make a choice now." As the room pitched around them, the mirror pulsed with light, and horrific glimpses of their possible futures took form. Each of them held their breath, trapped by fear, the shadows coiling tighter around them, waiting for a decision that could shatter everything they knew. But could they bear the weight of what awaited them? What dreadful unveiling loomed just beyond the reflected surface? Time hung in the balance, and the haunting faces of the past loomed ever closer. A silence fell over the room, pregnant with uncertainty. Each heartbeat echoed like a drum in Anne's ears, reverberating through the spectral chill that wrapped around them. Beads of sweat formed at her temples as she stole a glance at Marcus and Sarah. Their faces betrayed confusion mixed with terror. Martha breathed, her voice barely a whisper. "What price?" The spectre's features twisted as if caught in a storm of emotions: anger, sorrow, anguish. "The price is your truth and its shadows," Martha replied, her voice a ghostly wisp that wrapped around the group. "Your lives are intertwined. To uncover one story, you must reveal the other." "Stop," Marcus pleaded, his voice wobbling. "This can't be real." "What do you mean intertwined?" The spectre moved closer, and even in her ephemeral state, the air shimmered with potent energy. The mirror pulsated again, a heartbeat sounding louder, more ominous. Images rushed forth: gruesome scenes of their own pasts, moments they wished to forget, decisions that led them here, regrets cast deep into their souls. "Choose," Martha cried, her eyes wild. "Seek the truth as friends, or suffer alone. You can't undo what you know." Anne's instincts surged with fear. So many questions flooded her mind, each fighting for space. What could this mean? How could they unravel a truth that seemed so blackened and frail? Could their friendship really handle the weight of Martha's sorrow? The mirror's glow intensified, blinding them momentarily. As they blinked against the light, silvery tendrils snaked out like fingers, stretching towards them, goal-oriented and inviting. All at once, Anne was thrust into a memory, one that felt like a jagged shard slicing through time. She stood in a sun-drenched garden, laughter ricocheting off limestone walls, the joy nearly tangible. There, in the corner, a little girl played, a child, so carefree, unwitting of the darkness that tinged the air. But that laughter quickly twisted into cries, a shrill dissonance that shattered her heart. "No!" she screamed, grasping her head. "It's not me." "It's not? Then why does your heart race?" the spectre implored, stepping closer. "Why does your history weave into hers?" Sarah stumbled back, gripping the edge of a table. "This is insane. We can't do this. We shouldn't even be here." Marcus took a deep breath, grounding himself. "We need to face this, don't we? If Martha has been kept prisoner in her pain, we can't let that fate claim us. We're not doing this just for ourselves. But what if we don't like what we find?" Sarah's voice trembled. "What if it changes everything? Or maybe it'll set us free?" And shot back fiercely, fists tightening. "I want to let the shadows swallow us. We didn't come this far to turn back now." The mirror throbbed, swirling images collapsing into a cyclone of truths. They saw themselves in fragments, joyous moments, heartbreaks, hidden fears, and secrets that stung like fresh wounds. Don't you feel it? Martha's voice cut through the chaos. The truth is powerful. It binds your fates as one but also threatens to rip you apart. Make your choice before the darkness consumes you completely. The room shook, shadows thrashing, desperate whispers clawing at her thoughts. Every flicker of light both illuminated and obscured, a dance of contradiction drawing them closer. And stepped forward, the air crackling around her. What if, she thought out loud, the truth isn't just about understanding but about healing? Just as she reached out toward the mirror, her heart galloping like a wild horse, a piercing screech erupted, shaking them back. It was immediate chaos, the room trembling, shadows closing in around them, an urgency clawing at her gut. Are you ready to embrace it? Martha screamed, anguish echoed in every note, or will you run while you still can? With every ounce of courage she could muster, and faced her friends, their eyes wide, breaths unsteady. This is our chance. Gripping their hands, she felt the pulse of the room. Together, we face whatever is next. But as they steadied for resolution, the shadows writhed violently. A crack echoed, splitting the mirror's surface, and just beyond it, a yawning darkness beckoned. Once again, they stood at the precipice of choice. Would they step boldly forward into the truth, or retreat into oblivion, shackled to their own uncertainties? A storm of energy enveloped them, promising everything yet threatening to consume them whole. Their fates danced dangerously close to the edge. And just as they took a step into the unknown, the world around them exploded with light, and reality began to shatter. What lay beyond that destruction? A new beginning or an end? The light engulfed them, swirling like a tempest, blinding and brilliant. It felt as if time and space no longer existed. And just as suddenly, darkness fell heavy, suffocating. And gasped as she landed with a thud on a cold, hard surface. Dazed, she struggled to her feet, her heart hammering furiously in her chest. She blinked, trying to adjust to the dim light. Where are we? Sarah's voice was shaky, echoing against the barren walls. Is everyone here? Marcus's voice cut through the stillness, filled with urgency. He reached for an arm and pulled her close. What just happened? And whispered, scanning their surroundings. They were in a room with crumbling walls, the air thick with dust. The remnants of old photographs hung crookedly, their faces faded and forgotten. Did we step into the mirror? Marcus pondered, glancing around as if expecting a more tangible answer. No, Sarah said, her voice trembling. I think we've been pulled into some sort of memory. But whose? A low rumble resonated the walls, rattling the photographs. A chill snaked down Anne's spine, and she caught the flicker of movement in the shadows. Martha, she breathed, heart racing. Do you think she is here? Maybe this is her past, Marcus suggested, stepping cautiously forward. We need to find out. Don't you get it? Sarah interjected, her panic rising. This could be dangerous. We don't know what's waiting for us here. But before Anne could respond, a figure slipped through the shadowed doorway at the far end of the room. At first, it was indistinct, a whisper of motion, an outline barely visible. Then it emerged fully, revealing a gaunt woman with hollow cheeks, dressed in tattered clothing that hung loosely on her emaciated frame. Help, the woman croaked, her voice weak yet filled with desperation. Please, help me. Who are you? Anne called, taking a cautious step closer. I am Martha, the woman rasped, her haunted eyes locking onto Anne's. You must listen. The truth binds us, but it also chains us. I was trapped here, lost in my own despair. Anne's heart sank. The reflection was pitiful, a shell of the woman they once knew. What do you mean, trapped? We're here to help. Martha's gaze darkened, a flicker of anger piercing the sorrow. Help? You think you can help me? Her eyes flared, and the shadows around her twisted and writhed. You will face what I could not. Choices long buried will rise and demand their dues. The room trembled again, as if the very walls were alive with the power of her words. A sharp, chilling wind swept through, lifting the dust in a swirling dance around them. Anne! Marcus shouted, grabbing her arm to steady her. Whatever this is, we have to be careful. We can't lose ourselves in her pain. Right, Anne replied, courage resting free of her fear. But we have to understand, we need to know what she went through. Martha began to chant softly, her voice rising like a haunting melody. The shadows began to converge, thickening around them, as the room transformed. The walls faded, replaced by the visions from the mirror, a garden again, sunny yet darker this time, filled with laughter that echoed ominously. Your truths are like vines, Martha's voice whispered ethereally. They wrap around your hearts, choking the light. Will you cut them loose, or let them destroy you? And felt a tug at her insides, pulling her toward the garden. This wasn't just Martha's story, it was theirs. She could feel Marcus and Sarah beside her, their desire to understand intertwining with dread. We have to face it, she said, her heart quickening. Together. As they stepped deeper into the vision, the laughter morphed into cries that echoed off the walls, growing louder, echoing their own fears of revealing the truth. What do we do now? Sarah's eyes darted, shadowed with uncertainty. What they didn't want us to find, and replied, swallowing hard. There's power in this. We have to be ready for it. But as they braced themselves, a blinding flash of light erupted around them again. They felt weightless, before plummeting into an even darker abyss. What truths awaited them in this deeper darkness? Would they be able to unravel the tangled web woven by their pasts, or would it consume them, just like it did Martha? The fall felt endless, dark and disorienting. Time lost all meaning as they tumbled, weightless yet heavy with dread. Anne squeezed her eyes shut, bracing for the impact that never seemed to come. Then bam, they landed hard on something solid yet soft, a sprawling field damp with dew and heavy with the scent of wildflowers. The light began to filter through a canopy of trees, revealing a dusk-soaked landscape that felt alive. Are we dreaming? Sarah's voice quivered as she pushed herself up, looking around with wide, terrified eyes. I don't think so, Marcus replied, his gaze scanning the horizon. This feels too real. And brushed dirt off her clothes and stood slowly. This has to be another memory. Look there. She pointed toward a grand, decaying mansion looming in the distance, a stark contrast against the serene landscape. It was beautiful, yet its neglected state told a story of abandonment. This must be Martha's home, and breathed, a blend of wonder and unease coursing through her. Let us go. We have to find out, Marcus nodded, taking the lead. A sense of urgency pulled them toward the mansion, and Anne felt every step grow heavier. The garden that surrounded the mansion turned from vibrant colors to a dull palette, the flowers wilting as they approached. Inside, the air was thick with dust. An eerie silence hung over the space, broken only by their footsteps on the creaking floorboards. Shadows danced along the walls, whispering secrets of bygone days. A chill crept up Anne's spine. Do you feel that? Sarah murmured, her voice barely above a whisper, as if the very walls listened, before and could respond. A flicker of movement caught her eye. In a small alcove, a figure stood, half illuminated by the fading light. Tall and gaunt, a young girl stared back at them. Her eyes were wide, reflecting fear and longing. Help me, the girl's voice was a mere breath, yet it pierced the air, raising goosebumps on Anne's arms. Who are you? Anne stepped closer, drawn in by an invisible force. The girl hesitated before speaking. I'm Clara, and I was trapped here, just like Martha. I can show you. Show us what? Marcus interrupted, his expression both focused and fearful. The truth, Clara whispered, and as she spoke, a door behind her creaked open, revealing a stairwell descending into darkness. And S' heart raced. This was the moment Martha had warned them about the truth that could bind or crush them. Do we trust her? Sarah looked between them, her eyes glimmering with uncertainty. We have to, and said firmly, breathing deeply to steady her nerves. They had come this far. They couldn't turn back now. Without waiting for a response, Clara turned and glided down the stairs, her form flickering like an old film reel. The air grew colder, and the shadows thickened, wrapping around them as they followed. What if we shouldn't? Marcus called after Clara, but she didn't turn. Being afraid won't help us define our fates. And pressed onward, not letting fear deter her. They descended deeper, past doorways that loomed like dark mouths waiting to swallow them whole. As they reached the bottom, a small room emerged, dimly lit by a single flickering bulb. Scattered across the floor were objects: a doll, a broken mirror, and a diary. Clara stood in the center, her eyes pleading. Every choice made here is tied to your past, she said solemnly. Will you confront what it has cost you? Each item in the room pulsed with energy, drawing them closer, revealing remnants of their fears, regrets, and desires. And S' chest tightened, a lump forming in her throat. What if we can't face it? Sarah murmured, clenching her fists. Then we can't move forward, Clara replied. As Anne reached for the diary, a haunting whisper echoed in her mind, echoes of choices unmade, of paths long traveled but never explored. The air crackled with unseen forces, and a cold wind swept through the room, extinguishing the flickering bulb, plunging them into darkness once more. Anne! Marcus shouted, reaching out for her, panic dripping from his voice. She gripped the diary tighter. Heart racing. We're almost there, we can't give up now. But as the darkness enveloped them, a spine-chilling laugh rippled through the air, as if the shadows themselves were alive, not just a past to confront, but a danger they never anticipated. What had they awakened, and would they survive the truth that lay buried deeper than they ever imagined? The darkness throbbed around them, a living thing that pressed heavily against their skin. And felt the weight of the air as it stifled her breath, each second stretching into an eternity. Stay close. Marcus shouted, his voice cracking slightly, breaking against the encroaching shadows. And could feel the panic rising in her throat, but she fought it down. She had to be resolute. Clara's words tangled in her thoughts, the promise of truth stirring a dangerous curiosity. What had they stumbled into? A flicker of light suddenly cut through the blackness, a tiny glow pooling around Clara's form. Bright strands shimmered, illuminating the faces of her friends, their expressions a mix of fear and determination. Follow the light, Clara urged, her voice steadier now. But know that the truth is not always kind. And took a step forward, guided by that fragile light. With each movement, the darkness thinned, revealing dim outlines of the room around them. The doll, its porcelain face cracked, seemed to grin maliciously in the low light. The broken mirror shimmered briefly, reflecting distorted images. Can you feel it? Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. It's watching us. I'd say it's more like it's waiting for us, Marcus replied, his eyes darting around, searching for any signs of life. Clara gestured to the diary, now glowing faintly in Anne's hands. Each word that lies in there is a thread of the past. It binds you to what has been, and reveals the shadows lurking in your hearts. As Anne opened the diary, the air surged, twirling around them as if responding. Page after page blurred together, whispering secrets that twisted into the corners of her mind. Names, dates, and events swirled into a chaotic dance, awakening memories she thought she had buried deep. Suddenly, one name caught her eye: Martha. Her heart lurched. Martha had promised them answers, but now it felt like a warning. What did you do, Martha? Anne murmured, feeling the weight of responsibility crush her. Whatever binds you here is the truth, and it wants to be known, Clara said, stepping closer. You must decide what to let go of. What burdens do you carry that keep you tied to this place? Without warning, the room began to shake, the walls pulsating with energy. The diary slipped from Anne's grasp, falling open to a page that glowed brightly now. In an instant, visions erupted before them, flashes of a life filled with servitude, a grand table set with fine china, the clinking of silverware blending into echoes of laughter that turned sinister. No, no. This can't be. Sarah gasped as the scenes unveiled the masks of those they thought they knew, revealing the shadows that danced just beneath the surface. Marcus stepped back, eyes wide. These aren't just memories, they're truths hidden in plain sight. Whose truth is this? It's yours, Clara replied softly, yet her tone carried an eerie weight. What you see now is an invitation to confront your choices. Do you dare to see? With a sudden burst, the flickering light extinguished entirely, returning them to a suffocating void. They could hear faint whispers, a chorus of regrets woven together, threading into their consciousness. Make your choice. Clara's voice rang out, a desperate plea drowning in the swell of overwhelming emotion. And S' heart raced, the urgency pounding in her veins. What would they choose? Revelations could alter everything they thought they knew. Would they embrace the truth, or let the darkness consume them entirely? A simmering cold ghosted over and as chills washed over her skin. Time was running out. They had to decide before the darkness swept them away. Do it. Make the choice. Marcus yelled, and his voice carried through the chaos. But before Anne could react, the voice behind them returned, a low, mocking laugh laced with malice. You think you're in control? You've only just begun to uncover your past. Then silence fell, heavier than all that lingered before. As the shadows crept closer, suffocating all hope, and clung to the memory of the light. Would they break free from the truth? Or would the truths break them instead? Just then, the diary began to shine again, illuminating the secrets clawing at the edges of their hearts. Open it, Clara urged. But what if that open door led to a darkness they couldn't escape? What awaited them as they dared to confront their deepest truths? The echoing laughter of the shadows left a chilling silence hanging in the air. With a deep breath, Anne faced her friends, knowing that the battle against their pasts would determine their future. In one resolute motion, she reclaimed the diary, feeling its warmth pulse against her trembling fingers. Together, she said, her voice steady with conviction. We have to face it together. The others nodded, their fear merging with a shared determination. They formed a close circle, each holding tightly to one another, grounding themselves in unity. With a shared glance of affirmation, Anne opened the diary once more, its pages illuminated by a ghostly glow. The colors of their own truths began to swirl around them, vibrant threads weaving through the air like a tapestry of memories. At first, the words felt foreign, their meaning obscured, but slowly, fragmented images began to manifest, faces and moments repressed from each of their lives. Joy blended with heartbreak, choices flashing like lightning in their minds. As Anne read aloud, the room vibrated, both haunted and electrified by the truths. Martha, Anne gasped, highlighting the name that surfaced again and again. She was rejected, abandoned, just like us. Suddenly, the air shimmered, and a gust of wind swept through the room like an awakening force, clearing the remnants of despair and replacing them with clarity. Shadows recoiled back, relinquishing their hold. The specter of Martha appeared, the hollow despair lining her face slowly transforming into something bright. Your acknowledgement gives me strength, Martha whispered, her voice no longer sorrowful but laced with gratitude. You've chosen to confront the pain instead of fleeing. The truth has power, it has always been meant to free you. With trembling hands, Anne turned to the pages that now glowed with energy. Each revelation echoed their soul's confinement. I've resented my choices, running from the weight of expectations. Sarah's voice broke through the stillness, the truth clung to her every utterance. I always thought I had to be perfect, but it led me to this darkness. I once thought my past defined me, Marcus admitted, his brow furrowed in pain. Hiding from it only trapped me deeper. I needed to face my failures, to embrace them. The realization swelled among them like a tide pushing away the darkness. And felt the warmth enveloping her friends, igniting hope where there had once been despair. "We have always had a choice," she murmured, her heart racing. "To live in those shadows or to step into our own light." In that moment of catharsis, they witnessed memories morphing into flickers of lives lived full, even when tinged with heartache. They unveiled the dreams lost but had the power to reclaim. And S' voice grew bolder, "Together we will weave a new story, one not bound by the past, but filled with love and resilience." As they stood hand in hand, the diary burst into a radiant light, washing over them. The room shuddered, and the walls began to dissolve, collapsing the old structures that held their pain, releasing all that bound them. With a blinding flash, they were thrown backward as light engulfed them completely, decimating the oppressive darkness of the house. And gasped, feeling warmth wrap around her like a protective embrace. The shadows screamed in protest but were swept away into oblivion. When the brilliance faded, they found themselves outside, standing in a vibrant garden alive with flowers, the air fresh and fragrant. Sunlight bathed their faces, nourishing their spirits as they breathed in new life. The once menacing mansion loomed behind them, now a mere relic of past sorrows. "I can't believe we made it," Sarah said, tears of joy streaming down her cheeks. "We faced it. We really did." "Martha is free now," Marcus whispered, gazing back toward the house, where the silhouette of a woman waved gently, whispering thanks before fading into the bright blue sky. As the three stood together, the weight of the world lifted, revealing a horizon of possibilities. "This is just the beginning," and said, hope surging within her. "We'll carry these truths like badges of honor, weaving them into our lives." With hands intertwined, they breathed in the fresh air, releasing the burdens of the past and stepping forward, liberated. Not just as survivors, but as ones who had conquered shadows, embracing light and the truth together. Now, this was the moment. You need to subscribe now to our channel for more incredible stories like this. Smash that like button now to help our community grow. Then flood the comments section with your reactions. Did you see the truth coming? What do you think of Martha's journey? And don't you dare wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this powerful conclusion. Your support means everything, and we can't do this without you.